Hi, I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial. But you might notice that we're not on Battleship New Jersey today. We are at the Buffalo and Erie Naval and Military Park in Buffalo, New York, on board USS Little Rock, and behind me you can see the destroyer USS The Sullivans. In today's video, we're going to talk about the Japanese just announced that they are going to be redesignating some of their ships from destroyers to cruisers. And this is super interesting for a couple of reasons. So Little Rock is a Cleveland-class light cruiser. They displace about 12,000 tons, and their main armament is made up of 6-inch guns, like the turret behind me, compared to USS The Sullivans, an approximately 2,000-ton Fletcher-class destroyer armed with 5-inch guns. These are both World War II constructed warships, and there's a very distinct difference between cruisers and destroyers. Destroyers' primarily work is anti-submarine warfare, although they've got some anti-air capability and of course anti-surface capability. Cruisers were used more in the anti-aircraft screen during World War II, although they've got some anti-surface ship capability, and some cruisers even have anti-submarine capability. Little Rock in particular received some upgrades post-war, with long-range anti-aircraft missiles being installed, which further makes her a better anti-aircraft platform, while the Sullivans received some upgrades post-war, such as Hedgehog and things like that, that make her a better anti-submarine ship. And so during World War II, you not only have slight distinctions in role, you also have very noticeable distinctions in size and capability. However, those distinctions go away over time. During the Cold War, the United States Navy changes up some of its designations and finds themselves in a shortage of cruisers compared to the Soviet Union. So they redesignate a lot of their larger, more powerful destroyers as cruisers. And that really obliterates any difference between cruisers and destroyers, because they were destroyer-designed ships. Now they're relabeled as cruisers. The cruiser Long Beach, that famously operates alongside New Jersey, is the last ship that is actually built on a cruiser-designed hull, whereas modern U.S. Navy cruisers, the Ticonderoga class, are built on the hull of Spruance-class destroyers. And so they're the same, approximately 10,000 tons as the Spruance class, but also Arleigh Burke-class destroyers are also about 10,000 tons. So that distinction between what is a cruiser and what is a destroyer has really gone away. The best description I have is the role that they do. In the Arleigh Burke, while they've got anti-air capability and they've got anti-surface capability, they are designed to be anti-submarine warfare vessels, while ships like the Ticonderoga class are designed primarily to be anti-air vessels, and they have some anti-surface capability and some anti-submarine capability, but it really is how they are designed to specialize. Now, that said, cruisers seemed to be going the way of battleships. They are very much a dying breed. So, much like battleships got so large that they were too expensive to operate anymore, cruisers started to get very large. And you've got ships like USS Salem, which is the same length as some battleships. And Long Beach, likewise, very similar length, although significantly lighter displacement because she doesn't have as much armor, she doesn't have armored gun turrets, things like that. But cruisers started to blow up to the point that they were too large. And so some of these larger destroyers get redesignated as cruisers, and it buys them a few more decades. But now, within 2 years, the U.S. Navy is planning on decommissioning the last of its Ticonderoga-class cruisers. And the U.S. Navy will no longer have any active cruisers. The U.S. is one of only 2 countries in the world that still operates cruisers, the other being Russia. Russian cruisers are all Cold War built ships, just like the US Navy ones, so they're probably not that long for the world anymore anyway. So it seemed like we were going to see this entire class of ships disappear. But Japan just announced that they are renaming some of their ships as cruisers. Japan has built some very large warships, and they had applied the name destroyer to all of them traditionally, but now they're saying, no, you know, some of our largest destroyers, they're really multi-role craft, they're really large craft, so they're going to be relabeled as guided missile cruisers, and they should be coming into commission right around the same time as the Ticonderogas are going out of commission. Japan's Izumo-class destroyers very much resemble aircraft carriers. However, they're more or less built on destroyer hulls, they're operating helicopters, so they called them DDHs, or destroyer helicopter carriers. The helicopters were being used for anti-submarine, which is the role of destroyers. However, recently they rebuilt parts of the flight deck to be strong enough to accommodate F-35 fighter planes. So now they are true aircraft carrying warships, and so they have chosen to rename them as aviation cruisers, which actually is a class of ship that has existed for a long time. You have ships during World War II like the Swedish Gotland, which shadows Bismarck famously for a while. She's got a cruiser armament up front and a flight deck back aft. The Japanese build ships like that, like Mogami's Reconstruction or Tone class cruisers. But in more modern times, the Soviet Union and Great Britain each operated classes of warships that were cruisers that, like in the Soviet case, had cruiser-style armament, but also had flight decks for aircraft carriers. So flight deck cruisers in the modern world, and so that's an appropriate name, certainly a more appropriate name than flight deck destroyers for these Japanese ships. And I'm just excited to see, because there is a bit of a stratification. You've got destroyers that are more than 10,000 tons in China, the United States, Japan, South Korea. And it's exciting to see people going through and being like, you know, these are starting to exceed destroyer level capabilities, and they really are cruisers. So that is happening before the last of the cruisers are decommissioned, which could happen in just a couple of years. But now we're going to see these Japanese ships in service for at least another 20. And I wouldn't be surprised, now that the name is being brought back for modern ships, that maybe it gets redefined a little bit, and maybe we'll start to see the South Korean King Sejong the Great class ships are like Arleigh Burke destroyers that have been pumped up to 11. They're really powerful ships. They could very easily be renamed as cruisers. Some of the large Chinese destroyers could very easily be called cruisers, and they're going to operate in an anti-aircraft warfare capacity for their carrier battle groups that they're starting to form. And hopefully we'll see the United States start to develop a class of cruisers to replace the Ticonderogas in the next couple of years. Because the Arleigh Burkes are fantastically capable ships, and the Flight 3 ships are starting to get large enough that one might call them cruisers. But like a more capable air defense warfare platform is always a great thing for our carrier battle groups. And the last several cruiser designs that the Navy came up with, Congress refused to fund, and they went away. So hopefully that will happen in the near future, and cruisers as a class will continue to exist. What's a class of ships that you would like to see be redefined and brought back for the modern era? I really like the idea of bringing back battleships, and South Korea is building a class of ships similar to the Arsenal ships. We did a video on that not that long ago, which is very much a modern concept of a battleship. So I'd love to see that type of warship start to be built by other navies as well. But let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Helicopter cruiser definitely wasn't one that I had on my list, but I'm just glad that the cruiser designation is staying around. Battleship New Jersey receives operating support from the New Jersey Department of State, as well as from a number of other businesses and private individuals like yourselves. If you'd like to support the upcoming dry dock efforts for the ships here in Buffalo, Croker, and the Sullivans, there's a link in the description below so you can donate to their museum. You can support Battleship New Jersey by liking, sharing, and subscribing so more people find about our museum and our channel. Thanks for watching.